Good evening and a warm welcome to the Blacknificent show. My name is Difference Mavasa and I'm absolutely delighted to bring you tonight's episode. What is at the heart of the Blacknificent show is not only spotlighting Black excellence, but also looking into some of the issues that affect young Black people in our society on a daily basis. One of those issues is education, the entire space around the world of academia, and also leadership. There are a lot of challenges that we have experienced as Black people as far as our academics are concerned. And it is important for us to look into some of those challenges and look into how one can navigate through their academic pursuits despite the many challenges that we face as Black people. It is also important for us to try and link education and leadership and see if the claim that good and quality education can breed better quality leaders is true. And to have this discussion, I am joined by a guest that I admire so much, Dr. Mfundo Nkosi, who is a South African based entrepreneur and a lecturer, a speaker, and a preacher. He is well placed in society as an esteemed advisor who can make a difference in various audiences and organizations. He is a founder of Acacia Global Engineering and Projects and a lecturer at the University of Johannesburg, where I met him. He holds a PhD in mechanical engineering. He has a master's in business administration. He has a certificate in project management and other qualifications on top of that. He is a member of the Engineering Council of South Africa. He's a member of the South African Institute of Mechanical Engineers, the South African Institute of Business Management Scientists, and International Association of Engineers. He is also a member of the Global Key International Honor Society, and this was based on his performance during his PhD studies. He was also nominated as one of the top 10 young outstanding persons by the Junior Chamber Council in 2020. And I am delighted to welcome him to the show tonight. Dr. Nkosi, welcome and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Difference, for having me, and greetings to everybody who's with us in this show.
Well, first of all, I just want to start by congratulating you on obtaining your PhD. That is a beautiful milestone that we all celebrate, and I've seen celebrations coming from all around. Just take us back to that moment when you got that message to say it is now confirmed, it is certified that you are a holder of a PhD. How did that feel for you?
Actually, thanks for congratulating me, but maybe I would say the celebration started after receiving the feedback from the examiners. It was a very beautiful thing. Maybe if I can take you through it, is that what happened during that time where you find out that you have got three examiners. One of the examiners had comments, and those comments were just minor comments that if I correct them to a satisfaction of the supervisor, he did not want to see it again. The second one had just two comments on few things, just a way of putting things, and the third one had not even one comment on that one to show that. So for me, it was a very exciting thing, except that he was praising some of the things that have been done in the PhD. And then now getting the certificate brought back so many memories of my journey. I was so excited and thinking of the people who supported me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, at Arise Black Child, we are part of that family that is celebrating this milestone with you. Now, we know that a person's academic journey can be filled with a lot of challenges. As we reflect on your academic journey thus far, what are some of the most challenging moments that you can recall?
Yeah, maybe as I've also shared on most of my social media handles, the greatest tool that maybe I can bring to your attention is for me when I went to the university. I was dropped out by my bursary that paid for my winter school and the spring school. Now, because I did requirement for mathematics, but I could still secure a specialty. Or at that time, it was very difficult for my parents to pay, but they were able to pay for my registration and organize something. And during that period, I had 12 modules, and I could only afford one book for my studies, of which it was a very difficult moment. I passed some of the modules, but I failed two, and I had sub on the 3 of the modules. Then I made a change of mind to go to the diploma, go into the sub. I said, let me just make a change of mind, because even from the flat where I was staying, the university now was to me because I couldn't even afford to be addressed. And then the other part is that when I changed mind to go to diploma, that was back in 2003, first semester, mental illness. I suffered. I just got sick, and then after that, while trying to navigate the flu and the headache, it all went down to a nervous breakdown, mental illness, hallucinations, and some of the blackouts and some moments that I couldn't remember. But there was a strong support and love from my family who carried me through the process. I was able to recover. And when I wanted to go back to school, because for me, school, that's what I wanted, then my parents tried to reason with me to just maybe stay a little bit until the year finishes for me to start again. But ever since that process, I've never encountered mental illness again. However, the challenges along the way, I got a bursary diploma. Then ever since then, my financial problems during the study were taken care of. And then we also had teams surrounding ourselves with friends with similar understanding to support each other in terms of giving emotional support, because when you are studying, you need a lot of emotional support rather than only just finances.
Well, that is interesting, and I think most of these challenges are common to many young Black people out there, and it will be fair for us to zoom into some of them more closely and see how you navigated around them. I noticed something. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think when you completed your matric, you spent about 2 years before you could get into university. Is that the case?
No, that was not the case. I could enter just immediately, but what made it delay was that period where I of the mental illness, which has added some years to my studies. But I could be able to enter. Maybe to just tell you, I studied in rural areas, but I was fortunate by that time, being because I was the second, even my sister, we contesting the last born position because I stayed for many years before she came. So we were able to be sent to a boarding school, as much as it did not have some resources. But what was most important about it was taking those family duties so that we focus on our studies. That is when I got a brochure which was called Rainbow at the time, which was talking about the qualifications, how to enter at university and all the stuff. That book really helped me to navigate through the university, because I even told my parents that if they don't have money, I will just go to Durban. I will see how I navigate through, but I want to do this thing.
Now, would you say that your journey was made more difficult by the fact that you grew up in a society that deprived Black people of education? Was being Black one of the reasons why you encountered a lot of challenges? And do you think young Black people still experience the same challenges today just by virtue of being Black?
I would say, based on our painful history that really is still carrying on with us, definitely some of the challenges I faced uh, are, are based on being Black. And also some Black young people are still it's still going to take us a long way, as long as we still have these two months in our midst, which is racial inequality and gender inequality, as you have known, have seen in Black communities where mothers play a major role, and if they are excluded in terms of economy, we're still going to see a lot of suffering from the Black community when it comes to accessing accessing economy and also quality education. So there is a long way to work around that. But what I can pose as maybe propose as a hope to the Black society is the availability of a person like myself and others who may assist them, especially in identifying some of the opportunities that don't require much of the expenses, and also in dealing with our attitude, because our background does also play a major role in how we view ourselves in terms of self-confidence, seeing ourselves not worthy of certain opportunities, and you find us letting those opportunities pass us.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that is amazing, and we have to thank you for making yourself available to assist others that may still be going through some of these challenges. I think if we begin to help each other up as Black people,
Yes, yes.
we will definitely go far. So thank you so much for that. Now, I want us to get into one critical issue, especially for people that are transitioning from high school into university. Choosing the right career path seems to remain a difficult challenge for
Yes.
many people. I think I'm an example of that myself. My first career choice, what I went to do the first time I got into university, was not really what I was passionate about. And I had to, later, after so many years, transition into what I felt more passionate about. And that is when things became better for me academically. Take us through that. How do you get to choose the right career path? And maybe you can use your example in this case, because if you have gone as far as doing your PhD, that could suggest that this is something that was really close to your heart and something that you were really passionate about, that you could go even that far with it.
Okay, maybe to just bring you to the picture, um, I, I I was more talented into teaching, um, agriculture. I loved it because my father introduced me as an informal farmer, but he had so much knowledge in just in his garden and his field. And then also in terms of art, I had a gift on that one. But when it comes to mechanical engineering, it was something that interested me. So it was something I'm passionate about. I wanted to know where these machines are coming from, how they are designed, how they are manufactured, how they are maintained. So that really sparked my interest to do mechanical engineering, which made me at an early stage now to begin try working on my physical science and mathematics so that I would secure a space at university. As I've told you that I came across a booklet which was indicating more or less what you need to have to enter at university. One of the things I might say to young people who want to navigate through life, there are three things, but they are based on two things on how to choose a career. Number one, you base it on something that you are good at. Let's say you're good in maths and physics, and there is opportunities in computer science in our current times now, in coding and in engineering. Then you can use that because it's something you are able to do, and then at the same time try to generate the passion for it. Then number two, you can do something that you are passionate about, because even if you can't do it, but that passion will lead you to have a growth mindset, the willingness to learn. Then the number three is identifying areas where there is a serious need for people to be in those areas. However, in that particular aspect, you need to combine the two, the passion and a little bit of the know-how to navigate through that. But what I can also blame in some of our high schools, and because coming from the black background, where we are more concerned about entertainment more than businesses and education, you find out that schools normally invite the DJs, the celebrities, actors, and motivational speakers who do not have maybe businesses and academic background to motivate the school children, of which then, if we do so, we're not engaging academics, we're not engaging professionals and business people, people who have navigated through this. We're failing these students to not have the role models who are traveling this journey, and also for them to identify careers. You find some of them now want to become DJs, want to become musicians in places where most of the time is about opportunity rather than how good you are. And then they end up thinking that they are not good in those spaces, only to find that it's opportunities that they didn't get. I wish schools can even open up the spaces for people like myself and others who have navigated through life in this manner to assist them with students. To just close this one, I will just tell you there is a school I've tried a couple of times to go there and speak to their kids, but I failed many times. Yet actors and popular pastors and them come in and go without even asking, they get invited to go there. So if we may play around this and try to balance this, we might change the perspective and the way things are.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with you on those issues. I think myself, I was a victim of a career misguidance, because I grew up being passionate about technology, about software, and a whole lot of other things. But I felt like out of the people that we looked up to, the people that were encouraging us and motivating us, no one was talking about that much. They were talking about other fields in engineering, and I started to feel that maybe what I'm passionate about is not really a good thing to go into, And I went into the other things that I kept hearing about. People are talking about chemical engineering at the time, all these other different fields, and I ended up going into one of those, and it didn't work. I had to go back to something that I'm really passionate about. So I think that is absolutely key. That is absolutely important for our schools to have those programs that will channel kids in the right direction. But let me also maybe bring in something here. Maybe talent identification in high schools is also something that is lacking. How should our schools be helping young kids in identifying what their passion could be? Because sometimes people go as far as matric and they really don't know what they want to do, and when it comes, they have to go to university, but they still have no idea. What intervention can be made in such situations?
You know what, you hit the nail there, because it's something that was in my mind to say. You find out that these learners wake up in grade 12 when it is too late. Some of them, after receiving the results, then now they don't know where to go. The issue of talent identification, schools cannot do this thing alone. We're an integrated society. They need to really work with the outsiders, people who are focusing on these areas, with the NPOs, with the youth who are in, because there are a lot of also youth NPOs that are focusing on empowering the young people. And especially in this era where we have uncertainties and all the stuff, the talent, the identification of talent is a very key thing. As I'm saying, that there are people who have advanced their lives through their talent, but if there was no one who identified the talent, maybe it could have gone to waste. So one of the things is for the schools to engage with, to be open-minded engaging people from different areas, understanding even the challenges that these students, let's say someone, for argument's sake, is interested in soccer for that matter. One is encouraged also in terms of the subjects that one has to study, because we know that when it comes to sports and staff injuries, if you are being put back, how do you manage that? Issues of financial management, issues of emotional intelligence, because that is where also when you deal with emotional intelligence and investing in students, that's where they also begin to start understanding themselves, because that's another thing, to identify the talent, but also understanding themselves. Like you were saying, you knew from the start that you wanted IT, you wanted technology. So for you, you knew what you wanted, but you lacked now someone who was going to identify this burning desire and give you the right path. But some of them, you find out that they have not even discovered themselves, what they like, what they want to do. If we can maybe work with, as an integrated society, in identifying this. I also really praise this program because it's one of the efforts in trying to bridge that gap, as long as many people give their time to it.
Absolutely. So let's look to the current education system in itself, both at school level and university level. Do you think the system itself has been designed in such a way that it prepares young people to be critical thinkers and innovators, instead of, just being good employees? I was speaking to tech director of a software company in the past few, saying how concerned he is about the lack of training in institutions of higher learning, that when people get into the job market, they are not really ready for work, but all they have is just, a lot of theory that they did not put into practice, during their studies. Would you maybe give us your views about the current education system and how it is shaped?
I think I do share the same sentiments with the technical director you're referring to. For me, it's even much clearer, because before I came back to academia or joined academia, I already started in the industry and absorbed a lot of experience from there. And I founded my own company as well, where I needed some people to assist me with that. I've always also indicated that even when I speak to my students, I normally tell them that I'm teaching you, giving you the engineering knowledge, not for you to become engineers. What you become, how you use that knowledge afterwards, it's really entirely up to you. That during this process, are you understanding the field? What is required in the field? I think also what the universities need to do is to encourage more in terms of engaging the industry, rather than only focusing maybe on teaching and research, because research takes time to develop solutions. But if you're engaged with the industry works on problems on a daily basis. So it keeps you on your toes. It develops this critical thinking, and you are able now to transfer that to your own students. So there is this a gap between academia and industry in developing this day-to-day solving of problems, of which the students actually, when they come out to become active participants, the first thing you need is this critical thinking on your toes, being able to put your knowledge into practice. And then as you grow within the company, then you can start, even in your own company, then you can start to use the skill of research now to improve the processes and all the stuff. But in the beginning, really, we still need to work around the academic institution. I even once said to others, what happened is, even when you speak in terms of transformation, maybe it's the change of the lectures that now you will find about Dr. Nkosi and others in class, but the system has mutated. It has not been transformed completely to cater for maybe our African problems as well, to cater the current economic crisis. So in other words, we are developed to become participants in the economy, not the creators of the economy.
mm, mm. Wow. And I'm just reminded of something at this point when we are talking about this, So coming from a rural high school as well, I was not exposed to a lot of things, never been to the lab many times. I think our school only made efforts to bring some resources when we were already in matric, So when I went into university and got into a chemical engineering laboratory for the first time, a lot of those things were new for me, and no one had the time to start from the basics to say, what is this, what is it used for. We just got into these experiments, and I'm still trying to learn because I'm shocked by seeing a lot of these things that I don't know and I'm expected to use as a lecturer. When you come across such cases where there is a huge gap, between the content that learners covered in high school and what they're expected to know in their first year of study, how do you then assist these learners who were never exposed to some of these tools and equipments and technologies, speeding up their learning process so that they are on the same level, maybe with people that come from more technical high schools that are used to all these resources?
Um, Maybe to just admit upfront, um, you know what, to bridge a gap that has been opened for a very long time. When you are pressed with the syllabus, with all this other stuff, it becomes very difficult. That is why our students, as you have covered it earlier on the challenges of the Black students coming from where there is no economic participation, no exposure to technology. It does really plays a major role in shortchanging them or their challenges. But what one sometimes does is to ensure that maybe first those because for me, I believe in simplicity, is to simplify even the lab manuals so that it is the language that the students would understand, rather than now having a student is struggling with the manual, is struggling with the machine itself. So for me, it starts with the manual itself. Maybe to bring you to the picture is because even from my master's to a PhD, I've been focusing more on what they call human factors engineering. That is the relationship of a human being with machines, a human being with technology, with procedures and all that, where you find out that an individual fails to perform well, not because he's not equipped, but it's because of the relationship with the tools, technology, procedures, and all that. So that is what helps me now in ensuring that the language that is used is easy to understand. And then it's also to expose them to other videos about those particular machines, where you find out people who are explaining much better as to how those machines operate. However, that knowledge also you get anxiety for now. You are just learning this thing, you are watching this video because you are rushing a due date of the lab. So it's still serious problems, of which in one of the organizations we are busy finalizing its development. One of the things is also those visitations to rural areas, maybe to expose them to the current technology, even for them just to see us doing some drawings on computer aided drawing, doing some simulations, and find out guys from IT who can integrate these things as well. If we can have those shows. However, another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, I think you is the issue of the government. We know that even in the previous government, rural areas were not taken seriously. Unfortunately, even our Black government, our rural areas are not taken seriously. When it comes to development, it comes after years, while other people have gotten such particular development. They are not prioritized in that sense. Even the non-profit organizations who work more on the rural areas, you find out that it needs to be established by people who also have maybe businesses who have acquired some form of capital to run those projects. Because again, we live in a society where who knows who, rather than what is the quality project that is there for the advancement of mankind.
Interesting. And I totally agree. I feel like there's a lot that needs to be done in areas because we fall behind in many let me turn another issue here. So in 2019, this makes it clear to us that the academic space is very challenging for many different reasons. And
Yes.
what is your advice? How can young people deal with this stress that is brought by these challenges? And I think especially at a time like this where people are about to sit for their exams, there's a lot of anxiety, someone to sit for exam, they are thinking at the same time who's going to pay for their studies.
That's right.
They are thinking that they did not qualify for a certain module. So like funding, poor academic performance, and all those things can cause a lot of stress and even depression. How can young people navigate through some of these challenges?
I think now for me, I'm also at a better space of just sharing something there. I think maybe going back to my scenario of transition from 2002 to 2000, because academically, after I've changed from university to technical, I was really performing. I was amongst the top performers. But I think I had carried this burden of financial support, this burden of sometimes going to our flat, because our parents really were many that they could afford us who were in Durban, those who were at home, and all the stuff. So I think I spent my time worrying about the thing role at that particular time. So I think the most important thing from the students, I once even told one of the students who said, I can't continue here because I don't know how I'm going to pay for my studies. Then I said to the student, but you have registered already and you stay next to the university. Why don't you just continue? Let them hold your marks at the end, but just continue study, put your energy. Don't worry about that now. You have registered, you don't have money, you can't create it. But use this opportunity because you stay next to the university, attend, just write whatever you can write. Let them hold the results at the end of the day. You have nothing to lose if you stay within the university. And again, staying in the university, you might find even other opportunities rather than quitting. So one of the things students should also familiarize themselves with the facilities within the university. One of the things my father said to me when I wanted to immediately go to university after a recovery, he said, you know what, your life now is more important than the education, because education can wait, but your life can't wait. So the students, they get overwhelmed with work and forget that the university has got facilities for psychological and emotional support, which they can use. They get brochures there, they get access to counseling. There are even clinics within the university for someone to just go do some checkups, not wait until you collapse. So the students really need to start taking care of their own health and focus on the things they can control. Those things they can't control, if they can try to think less around those things, and also find something that is able to relax you when you have issues. Like myself, music plays a major role, and prayer as well during those times when I feel that, no, right now I'm burning out. Then I will just withdraw from what I'm doing and just listen to some music and then have time of prayer. Then I'll be recharged. So if one can understand his or her own life, that is much better.
Well, that is interesting, because I want to admit to something here. You know, all these facilities and resources that are available, I feel like a lot of young Black people don't make use of them. I don't remember a time during my years at the University of Johannesburg, I never even went to psych, regardless of how stressed I was. Maybe it's because, you know, as Black people, we are not used to some of these methods of dealing with the challenges that we face. You know, when I have a problem, I just want to close everyone out and want
You
to
see,
come out when everything is fine. And maybe even growing up, like when you go to a class in high school and you don't look happy, instead of your teachers coming to you and helping you, they would shout at you for not participating
no, for sure,
in
for sure.
class and add more to that. So I think we need to
Yeah,
definitely familiarize ourselves with all these resources
yeah,
and make
that's
use
right,
of
that's
them.
right.
Yeah.
Actually, I also wanted to tap into what you are saying now from the high school level. Students
Mm,
should be prepared and free talk about mental issues because that's what the were given. When that
mm,
resource shuts out, there is nothing you can do. So it's one of the important things, even health, to encourage it from school. Also, when coming back to that, when we were speaking about technology and stuff, as we're saying, rural
mm.
school teachers are not also empowered to work with this technology to deal with the psychological and emotional issues for students. So as the best option for them is to shout at you so that you don't bring these problems that they can't solve, so that you don't bring these problems to them, of which
Yeah.
now, if they're empowered to deal with those problems, it would be easier for the students to navigate through.
Mm, absolutely. I love, sticking to rural communities because I feel like there's a lot of challenges there. Um, we have seen in the past, people come from very rural areas with many challenges. We have seen them making it regardless of those challenges. How can these people that have managed to pull through regardless of whatever challenges they face use the education that they have acquired to develop those communities that they come from?
I think when it comes to that, we need to be intentional about our actions. Um, an individual cannot solve the entire problem. If we can hold hands, I remember the other time I went to Limpopo in Venda. I was invited there to speak, and I had to just quickly try to learn few words, greetings, and stuff, so that when I go there, I'm not just clueless and that.
Yeah.
But how I went there, I was brought by the guys who had formed themselves, and they wanted to really develop their area, and then they identified me as a partner in that particular process. So we can do that by identifying each other. Like myself, I'm saying we are busy with this also, the organization we're doing to establish even platforms for mentorship, for guidance, and that, and then showcasing what you are doing to spark the interest in the young kids. So that's one of the ways of doing it. The difficult thing about also taking our businesses down there is this issue of rural areas being neglected. You find out, like myself, who's dealing with maybe design and stuff, you'll find out that the engineer will need to work on that, will need to email it to me sometimes and then check it if it is okay. But now if you are down there with poor connectivity in the internet, it does hinder you to take your business down that side. The only thing we can do is to just do these shows, sparking the interest to them while we are engaging, because now some of us are in a position to engage also with some government officials in ensuring that really these resources come to the rural areas and they give attention to them.
Mm, absolutely. And we hope to see more and more of these programs being taken into our rural communities so that we develop our communities for ourselves, because development has certainly been slow, for so many
That's
years
right.
now. You still find communities without water, without electricity, and I don't think that should still be the discussion today. We should have gotten over those issues. We should have provided water, electricity, and all these basic things, and focusing on other aspects of development. So it is key that some of the elders in these communities and people that have made it give back to these communities in ways that they can. But I want us to look into leadership as well. I like the fact that your focus areas are in the academia and leadership as well. So just trying to link the two. We certainly have a leadership crisis in Africa. I don't think anyone would deny that. Would you say this is attributed to the lack of quality education to some extent?
Yes, there is the issue of lack of quality education, like the president of Sierra Leone who took over 2018, who's doing wonders currently. His focus was on clamping on corruption, which was affecting healthcare and education, of which are the key pillars of any society. And then one of the things he said is that it's not easy to lead in a society where there's illiterate and all this stuff. And also we see this in the appointment of certain leaders because illiterate, when most of us, you will find out that they are focusing on the chaos one makes more than the content the one has, that this is how he's willing to lead the country. So the issue of education, lack of education or quality education does play a role. But another thing is also finding that the education system focusing on developing specialists or active participant in the fields or in their respective fields without paying particular attention on the leadership qualities of these individuals. Because any individual who's produced by the university must go out of the university with some of the leadership qualities, because we're distributing these people to different fields, to different areas, and for sure they will become, they will assume leadership positions someday. It's in the government. We've seen it in most of the corporates. We thought by 2021 there are certain cultures you wouldn't see in corporates, but we still see them because of this lack of leadership. So the lack of education and the education itself not being able to develop visionary, transformational leaders and people who understand that leadership is about people. It's about empowering others to do good. It's not about you shining, because once you are appointed, which means they've seen some capabilities, so for you now is to make others shine. So those are the things we are lacking. And also the last part is what I call the coaching leadership. The leadership where you take people up with you, which is coaching leadership. We really lack into this. And I think if our academic institutions will look at that matters of
well, that is absolutely true. I think one of the things me and my friends struggled with when we started our chemical engineering qualification was, why do we have to do business management in chemical engineering? Why do we have to do all these other courses that are not related? Right. I think we were certainly not equipped enough. We didn't know that this is in preparation of the world that we are going to step into.
That's right.
You know, after all these other tools, and I think that is absolutely important that they are integrated into these different careers. But also, when you look into our society, there's also a lack of ethical leadership. It's not just you know a leadership crisis, but there's no good ethics, and we have lost hope in our political leaders. We have lost hope even in some of the religious leaders because of the many things that we have witnessed over the past few years. Where can our hope for ethical leadership really come from? Because now as society, I think we have lost hope in many different forms of leadership.
You hit it in the nail there, because one of the things I was saying when you speak of religious leaders, I said the church could have helped us in advocating for ethical leadership, but the church is captured too. It's captured to such an extent, maybe if I can dwell there, to such an extent that you find out that other people are more inclined and excited by the church activities more than their personal development. that I'm going there for the personal development so that I go out to the world to navigate through the world with understanding, with sense of purpose, with goals and the power to overcome any failure I face along the journey. And then the other thing, the justice system as well has failed us, which should have helped us to navigate through the ethical leadership. So I said, maybe the hope now is on the individuals who will intentionally prepare themselves and show the willingness to develop the ethical fabric, and also not only develop it and be engaged with people. Because one thing that was said by Prof. Ndebele, who's a chancellor at the University of Johannesburg, he was talking about authority, and he brought a certain element in terms of authority, that authority is about your character, that your presence now makes people want to do things in a better manner. Your presence makes people want to do things in an ethical manner because you have lived that life. You have portrayed that character. So your presence now actually informs others, not you give them orders of what to do, but your character being around them, it forces them to do things in the right manner. So it will come from the individuals who will travel a journey of becoming ethical people who do things in an ethical manner that will actually bring hope to our society. Because at the current moment, with the current leadership, they can't even develop ethical followers, whereas they are not even ethical leaders. The academic institution also have a role to play in ensuring that ethics are being portrayed in the academic institution and are being taught, not only taught, but portrayed and being what you call put into practice. So those are the things really that I think can help us.
Absolutely. I think we do indeed need people that are going to exemplify this ethical leadership. And I think having this discussion with you is very helpful because I think over the years I've learned a lot from hearing you speak on leadership, and not only speaking on it, but also doing that by example. So I think we learn better by not only hearing people talk about things, but seeing them do the things that they talk about. So I hope there's going to be a rise of leaders that are not only going to talk about this, but also exemplify it so that people see it in practice. Yes, another issue that concerns me here, Africa is the youngest continent. I think our average age is 19.4 or somewhere around that. But we have the oldest leaders. Does our culture and our society believe in young people and in young leaders? And what needs to change really around it? Because if you look at most of our leaders, they are very old and they are leading very young people. That gap, I think, has caused us a lot of problems. What are your views concerning that?
You're quite right there. We come from an era, and it still keep on following us. The African culture where a child has no voice. You have to listen to the elders, even if you see that this thing won't gonna work, but you will have to just let it pass because the elders are saying this and that. That culture has gone up to in forms of leaderships. You will hear someone, especially when you're saying, no, this thing is not right. Immediately, one will say, hey, I'm older than you. Now meaning that you shouldn't disagree with that particular person. And because we have to disagree on certain elements, we can't always agree. I remember even for me at church, because I'm not a person who can keep quiet when things are not going well, you will find out saying that, hey, we are older than you, we've been here for some time. I said, but I was not there when you were taking these agreements, which are leading us astray now. So I can't really keep quiet with this. So there is that culture of not believing in young people. It started in our families, where one would say an older person. Maybe for me, the reason why I was even open to them and very vocal, I was raised by an old man. My father he was even a little bit older than my mother. However, he modeled this thing of saying, even on things that are really traditional, which I was not interested in, but if he's going to have something at home, he will phone me and say, hey, my son, I'm going to have this. I know you are not part of it, but I don't want you to hear from people saying that in your home this was happening without you knowing. And if he is planning something, he would even phone and say, hey, I'm planning to do this. What do you think of this? So for me, really, that played a major role, so that is why I would be able to be vocal. But for some people, really, it has affected them. And now what happens is that people who end up from the youth getting a spot in leadership are those who become arrogant, because it's now arrogance that helps them navigate and break through these walls now of created by the elders, of which that also doesn't help us, because really for us to take this country or Africa forward, we need people who are really systematic thinkers, critical thinkers, people who know when to speak, when to shout, when to shut up. So if they know to do that, then it's fine. But as you're saying, really, we have a cultural issue in Africa in terms of listening to young people. West when it comes to women, where we are not willing to allow their views and opinions. So it's still a milestone, but I believe we are going to overcome this, beginning with shows like this one.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I'm really enjoying this conversation. But before we bring it to a close, I want to get your views on something. I personally think, there's a distance between political leadership and education. I feel like most of the leaders that we have at the moment maybe do not necessarily value education as much as they should, and maybe that has led to the many problems that we face. What is your assessment of our current state of politics, and do you think that education can save us from these socio-economic challenges that we continue to face as Black people?
Definitely, education can help us. We've seen it in ourselves, in yourselves, how we have broken the chains of poverty through education. As much as the other element that we need, we've broken these chains, but we're busy recreating due to deaths and stuff because of lack of financial intelligence. Now, what I want to bring to your attention in terms of politics, my assessment around there, is that the politics of Africa has become a mafia state. It's like the issue of the construction industry in South Africa. Lately, there is this a mafia and the gangs in there. So that even if you come with robust points, things of development, if you go against a certain crowd, you are even at risk of being killed. We should be honest about these things because we see them happening. We have seen even the young people like Abo Makaka brutally killed because of the stance they have. His friend speaking in the funeral of Makaka, he had to be hidden because of these issues of people who don't want to be told when they are doing something wrong. So the issue that we have, I used to joke about that while we were busy with books, these thugs were busy positioning themselves to take over. By the time we wake up that we need to take into leadership, it's a no-go area. One of the examples of that is Dr. Moyo from Zimbabwe as well, one of the very smart guys who was in the trade and industry. He was able to get in them. Mugabe was able to appoint him to that cabinet, but he had to escape Zimbabwe because now it's not everybody was happy about him, because he was not appointed on the political basis, but because of the character that he was. So the things he was proposing and the stuff was not really taken, and he was a very bit stubborn about his points to you have brought me to bring change, to escape. He was taken by the New York, one of the international banks, and staff now is also running programs of developing people. So to just a snapshot of how the academics go there and some come out. And some of them have gone there, but they've also been diluted because we know it. It's now called an English proverb, but for us who read the Bible, is 1 Corinthians 15:33. Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. There are people who entered into politics with good intentions, with good character, but only to find that they were beaten by the system. As one of the guys, I just forget his name, who says, the bad system will always beat a good person every time it tries.
Wow. Dr. Nkosi, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for speaking to us here at the Blacknificent Show at Arise Black Child. And just want to thank you for sharing with us your wealth of knowledge, experience, and your wisdom. I believe that everyone listening to this conversation will be inspired, will be motivated to do better for themselves, not only for themselves, but for society at large. We continue to look up to people like you who have led by example and continue to bring others up with you as well. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us as we wrap up this episode. But in closing, I just want you to maybe give your closing remarks and maybe give some encouragement to young Black people that going through a lot of anxiety because of trying to navigate through the academics and many challenges that they are facing, especially now that a lot of university students are sitting for exams and their minds are preoccupied with a lot of other challenges that are, some of them are not even related to their education, but because they are Black, they face these many challenges. So in closing, what encouragement do you have for a Black child who is still trying to navigate through their career path?
All right. As much as I'm not imposing my faith on them, I just gonna take a neutral verse, Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, which says, whatever is true, whatever is right, whatever is noble, whatever is excellent, if anything is praiseworthy, think on these things and act on them. So one of the very important things that they need to take care of is their minds. Program them with positive thinking, think on the success, think on the things that you need to do and act on them. By doing so, you will see yourself succeeding in life despite the challenges that you have. They have shared my story and my journey that I've went through challenges, but because of having a positive mind that I am created to make a difference, I kept on empowering myself and thinking forward. That's what I can say.
Wow. We really appreciate that. So I think many people that are listening to this would love to interact with you further. Is that space open? How do people get hold of you? How can people invite you to come speak on some of the occasions that they organize? How do people reach out to you?
Okay, as I've shared with you, I've got my social media handles. Most of them is Mfundo Nkosi, and others it's Dr. Mfundo Nkosi. So there's social, there's Facebook personal account and the page. There's Twitter. There's Instagram. Because I live in this time to get connected to people. And I've got my email as well. Maybe you can share with them, or I can share now. I'm not sure how I can do that. You can share it later. Even my number to others, I give my numbers as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we will just leave those contact details to alongside with the video on our Facebook page, and then maybe people can
That's right.
have access to them. Yes, I just want to thank you so much again for taking out this time. And myself, I've learned a lot from speaking to you tonight. And I want to thank you so much for making yourself available to us and sharing that wealth of knowledge and that wealth of wisdom that you have. Much appreciation to you. We thank you, we celebrate you, and we love you so much as the Arise Black Child family.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the friends and the team. I'm so grateful